Hello and welcome back to Talon 101. This time we're going to take a look at a move that's taken a nerf in Tekken 8. That is RFF 3 Slide 4 or Backlash. No, it didn't lose its homing property, it didn't lose its armor property. What it lost was its launch on hit. It is now a guaranteed follow-up into pretty damn good Okizeme. Whether that is a substantial nerf or not is up for you to decide, but the main use of Backlash hasn't changed from Tekken 7. It is a move that can instantly turn defense into offense. So of course, let's review frame data. Again, this is a 27 to 30 frame move. It's as slow or as fast as a snake edge, depending on how you want to look at it. Of course, probably faster recovery frames compared to a snake edge. It is a knockdown on hit with a clean hit property for extra damage, and is +4 on block, and returns Hwoarang back to left foot forward. Now let's talk about that on hit situation. You already know it gets a guaranteed follow-up, and if you want damage, that's FF3. You go for FF3 into right foot forward Okizeme, and if that ain't your style, don't worry, you can always change it into a running 3. Now, of course, that one, you're gonna have to time it a little bit compared to right foot forward, but you get the point. If you want to change that up, then go freeform with back 3, because that allows you to do pretty much anything in the book. Now, on block is very peculiar, because this is something Hwoarang has always had since his debut in Tekken 3. He had moves that put the opponent off axis, so that +4 I mentioned earlier is actually +4. Why? You look at the end of Backlash as both Hwoarang's return to neutral stance. One of them is off axis, and this is a big deal because if the opponent tries to move or press a button here, it won't end well for them. So if we tell Hwoarang to press a button, in this case we want him to do a basic DF1, and we go back to photo mode, we go all the way back up, see that? He does the DF1, it doesn't hit. It doesn't even catch Hwoarang's hurt box, hurt sphere, whichever way you want to call it. It's really bad. And this happens to every character in the game. If you throw out a short move, and not a homing move or a big move with a bigger hitbox, then that off-axis situation after Backlash is going to hurt you. And that's a big deal because if you know the weak side of the opponent, and in this case for Hwoarang it's sidestep left and left foot forward, I can now just walk and I get the opponent's back. I can sidestep and get a free whiff punish, or I can even backdash if they use the short move and get a whiff punish. That's mainly what Hwoarang loves to do on block if he's putting the opponent in these off-axis type of situations. The other thing you can do is affect their movement. So not only their buttons, right? Their movement gets affected too. And F1+2 will now basically be kind of homing at a certain spot. So you're already preventing sidestep right. We'll change this to sidestep left, still taking that away. We boost this to sidewalk right, still taking that away. And then sidewalk left, which infamously always takes away F1+2. Take that away also. Now, of course, that only works at a specific position, wherein his movement is already compromised. Because if I make it straight axis, he's still going away. But if I'm already at that position, where I throw out Backlash, then I could make this move look like it's homing. Could. The word is could. But that's very, very specific scenario. What isn't exactly specific is the frame trap. So if the opponent does decide to jab, you can technically trap them with 13 frames or faster. Or if you wanted to trade with them, use a 14 frame move. So if I throw out a 14 frame move in standing 3, we will trade with a jab. And if I throw out a 40+4, Hwoarang gets floated. It's a really, really bad idea. But if they throw out another 10 frame move, well, Hwoarang's 14 frame move, a 40+4, or like Flashing Trident, actually beats that. So it's frame trap in quotation marks at 14 frames, but it's generally 13 frames because DF1 will always prevent that. You can't exactly use 15, so if I'm trying to prevent movement, right, I can't prevent a button as well. So you need to pick between preventing movement and preventing buttons. Now, of course, all of this really generally goes away if you had heat active, because that's when you can throw out Ignition Barrage. Because Ignition Barrage catches sidestep right, it's gonna catch sidestep left. We change this to sidewalk right, it's still gonna catch that. And then the last one, the final boss, sidewalk left, still catches that. So like, all the problems are solved if heat is active. Or not unless you are willing, you have the hard read to always go for DF 3+4 right after Backlash on block. and you're willing to risk that negative 14 for this type of damage or to get access to heat for a +9 mix-up. That's generally what happens on block. Let's talk about how the Powercrush operates, right? Let's go back to his 15-frame DF2, because this move is very, very good at allowing Hwoarang to steal his turn in quotation marks, or even protect his turn. Steal or protect, whichever way you want to look at it. Because if I do something that's a -2, which is forward 2 or LFS 2, and I throw out Backlash, I'm safe. Now, of course, again, that's safe in quotation marks because the opponent can still recover, duck, and punish me, and it'll be GG's for me. But that's a 15-frame move at -2 on block. If we boost it to 0 on block into, right? But then if I change this to +2, see how that punish indicator comes up? Now at +2, he's no longer allowed to throw out 15-frame moves. Imagine if I even boost that higher to like +5. All the more he's not allowed to press that. And if I boost it up to like +7, then like it changes like by a ton, right? So you get my point. It actively eliminates the type of challenge the opponent's allowed to do. And it's also a homing move. And if the opponent wants to like get away from like your pressure or tries to prevent your pressure from starting up, you can even take away evasive moves. You take away the sidestep, you take away the challenge, and the evasive moves, all 3 in 1. And that's very, very good because now it becomes a catch-all. Well, catch-all in quotation marks because it won't beat a down jab, right? So even if I'm like at amazing frames of +5, that's still a position where the opposing Hwoarang can punish me. But it's a good indicator for Hwoarang, wherein, okay, they're using the option that beats Backlash, or that allows them to continue to punish me after Backlash. So now, I can just change it up and use the move that actively beats that, right? And it's extremely famous in the while standing 4-4 situation, because while standing 4-4 wants RFF DF4. But that situation basically dies if the opponent sidesteps. And if they're gonna do an evasive move as well, think Jin up forward 2, Feng up forward 2, then why not take that all away with Backlash? And then if they try to work against Backlash, then it's like, alright, now I know what to do. And in this case, let's say they're gonna try to work around Backlash, and that's the down jab. Then you get your situation back. Of course, that's a very, very simple way of looking at it. It can help narrow down which options to do next. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of its usage is its combo utility. It is a strong aerial tailspin, wherein you can extend the combo and continue doing extra hits to continue trying to get towards the wall or, you know, squeeze out as much damage as possible. Now, you can only really do 1 or 2 backlashes in a combo. That's pretty much the limit. He's not like other characters in this game that have been blessed with the privilege to do 3 or 4 strong aerial tailspins in one combo. And when you do it from specific launchers, AFSR, right plasma blade, you can just mash, you know, Backlash no problem. Now, what do I mean by mash? So just enter right foot forward immediately after JFSR and then do Backlash. That always hits. You don't have to change the timing. Even if it's just a regular skyrocket, that'll always hit. So you never get lost on how to follow up your combo. The same thing with right plasma blade or RFF 4 slide 4. You just mash that Backlash. Now, the one where you'll need practice for this strong aerial tailspin is when you do the tornado. So make sure that you can stand switch into right foot forward and then do the Backlash. And that's going to be very, very important if you want to use it in regular B&B combos and get more options for wall carry and combo versatility. Now, the biggest thing about this move is how to punish it. This is a big discussion that happens pretty much every single time. I've seen it from Tekken 7 all the way up to Tekken 8. Rarely saw it in Tag 2. Maybe it happened in some of the Tekken Batsu forums, but it wasn't that big of a move to think about, because even if the Hwoarang was doing an RFF dance, if you got hit by Backlash, that was pretty much on you. Because what the Hwoarang is looking for is that on the last active frame, you get hit as you walk in. So it's kind of like a deterrent at that point. Now, you can't exactly even approach him, because if he does it, then yeah, you're gonna get hit if they time their Backlash really, really well. Now, of course, you can use that timing against them as they dance here. You wait for that Backlash to finish, and then you walk up into a back 3 or an FF4 in the Hwoarang to Hwoarang matchup. And if they're doing it in sequences, even on block or on hit, how do you prevent that? Well, the key thing here is looking for the kick. You want the kick to be above your head, and you want it to be after this homing trail. Now, this homing trail is very valuable. You want to be able to see this homing trail because by the end of the homing trail, it is a punishable move. out or at the end of the homing trail, I can punish it. And you can punish it up to I-20 moves. So that's something like Reina FCDF3. But of course, that's a little bit more difficult. So I highly recommend keeping your punish from 11 frames to 15 frames. And just using this as a visual indicator, it will be a bit tough to get that homing trail into your mind. But as soon as you get it, that's a free punish. Pretty much every single time, yeah? But it's way easier if you keep it to 11 or 13 frames. Because if you keep it at those frames, for as long as the leg goes over you, right? At least you're getting the punish. And that's what you want. You want to prevent Hwoarang from being able to get into a groove. You want him to earn neutral again. You want him to try to go in and do all the sequences he needs. So you just keep him out with that neutral every single time. Tell him no, 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 no. But if you let him start up and allow him to continue doing that, then it becomes a problem. So don't make your defense a bonus for the opposing Hwoarang. 11 to 13 is very consistent for as long as that foot goes over your head. 15 is a consistency you'll have to practice. And of course, I-20 even more. That all the more you'd have to practice. But there's another key thing about this move, that the way you can punish it. Remember, it's a Powercrush. And now since it's a Powercrush, it's weak to throws and lows. So if I have a string that involves a low, and I know that they're gonna do it, or have an idea that they're gonna do it, I can actually just challenge Hwoarang right away with a move that has a low in it, and I'll prevent Backlash from even starting up. And since it's a, Powercrush, the last part of that armored move is something I'm allowed to punish with the universal up forward 1+2. And that's always gonna go in. Now, of course, if you're late, right, so I'm gonna make that intentionally late, it can break it. But of course, if they're not catching it, right? If they're not aware, or if they can't see your hand, then going even for a generic throw doesn't even have to be a forward 1+2. Just use a generic throw. And that'll still register as a punish. Or the opponent will mess up their throw break even if you make it really, really late. Or go for your unique throw, right? That's QCB3. So that option is available for pretty much everyone in the cast. And you can use full crouch moves as well. Now, of course, Hwoarang doesn't have a full crouch move, but think something like Jun FCDF2, Reina FCDF4, Peng FCDF1, Ana FCDF2. Think moves like that. And, as soon as the backlash happens, you can beat them out of it. Most especially if it's a low. Like, they'll take it away. In Ana's case, that's going to be a launcher. In Yoshimitsu's case, that's going to be a counter hit launcher. And it's going to register as counter hit. That's the best part about it. So that's just going for visuals. What if I told you there's an audio line you could use to make your life easier? Now, if Hwoarang actually absorbs a hit, he says that line. Remember that line. Because that line is connected to when the kick is punishable. So I can wait for him to finish that line in particular, and I'll always, 90% of the time, launch punish Hwoarang's ass. It doesn't matter what move I use, I'm good. For as long as I'm allowed to recover in that situation, right? So, because this is a +5 situation, throwing out a 15 frame move means I can't recover anymore. But I'm allowed to use a 13 frame move. And I haven't failed once. That's how easy it is to punish Backlash. Most especially if you have that audio indicator. So just, if you find him in a situation where you can challenge, of course, challenging a +5, probably a little bit wonky to do. But challenging at -2, very interesting to do. But even if it is something you can use as an audio clip, or, something to keep you on your toes to punish the move, you notice that the first 2 attempts I did, I blocked it. I stood up way too early. Frames matter. So at the +5, you are slower. And it makes the timing for when you press a button into the duck very simple. But you are faster here when he's -2. So anytime he's in a negative situation in right foot forward, which is not a lot, by the way, you're gonna be on the slower end. Of course, you can still use the visual indicator of when to punish Backlash, and even use the audio cue when to punish. But if you're doing it at the same timing with all the frame advantage, then yeah, it's gonna put you off a little bit, but it's still on point. You hear the sound, punish. You see the kick go over your head, punish. Like so. That's pretty much everything about Backlash. It is 100% best used in offensive situations, something like the game, because it takes away the amount of moves they're allowed to use to begin with. So you get it at higher frames, all the more those moves can't be used. At lower frames, you'll still survive against those moves, but they can potentially punish you. But it is something for the opponent to think about because it limits their options, it prevents them from even sidestepping, and then they always need to include, a sidestep duck or even think about ducking, which now allows you to throw out, those mids and make life pretty good for you. And it's very good, like, again, if they try to beat your Backlash already, then you're like, oh, okay, they're trying to beat the Backlash this way. So and then let me just apply the option that actually beats that. And then the counterplay is very, very simple. So that's best used in like situations like that. And of course, in neutral as a deterrent, because now the opponent has to think about when to approach you, most especially if you like throwing this out and let's say you're not getting as whiff punished that often. That's a key part, because if you are getting whiff punished often here when you do the RFF dance into Backlash, well, then stop doing it. But if you aren't, and you're throwing out from time to time and making it unpredictable and mixing it up with like an approach tool in RFF DF3, it's fantastic. If they allow you and give you that breathing room in neutral, then of course in defense, most of us, especially in sequences where you have the frames to enter right foot forward, like this sequence where they go for forward 2, then I can go for something like that and then turn it into offense right away. So that's everything I know about RFF 3 Slide 4 Backlash. Again, I've been Frontier. Thank you for watching.